that's totally fine. And we're going to share the recording later on.
I'd forgotten to
Also,
hit record.
I just wanted to thank everyone for having this at a time that so I'm in Australia and
Uh-huh.
we
Oh,
never get to go to any of these things because they're always on at like 3 a.m. So when I got the notification that it was at 9 a.m. Australian time, I was like, yes, this is good.
Nice. Yeah, we wanted to be as inclusive as we could be. And San Jose in California, I'm in Mexico right now. So we wanted to try and find like, a good time that could fit everyone.
Totally.
We're gonna,
the European folks, they are always sleeping right now. So
Yeah, I know. You can't please everyone.
yeah. Okay, I think maybe we can get started, Neto. We can continue as whenever you have questions, we can get into them. But I'll start by sharing my screen real quick. I think, Neto, maybe you have to allow me
I have to give you permission. Yeah.
I think so.
Let's see. I don't know how to give you permission to share your screen.
Oh man.
Actually. Oh
Maybe.
yeah. I got it. Yeah. Multiple participants can share the screen. Who can share? Oh, it sounds like only the host can share. So I'll
I
just,
think
oh
I
yeah,
can
you got
share
it.
now.
You got it. Cool.
Okay. So yeah, everyone, like we are super happy that being able to build this like framework with you all. Like this is such a unique moment because usually what happens is that people are just like alone in their rooms and they're building that stuff. And we're taking this opportunity to build this together. So like I'm just super excited that there's like even like one person here with us today. And
Just
there's
looking back, right? Looking back of when we started the project, how long ago was that? Was like maybe September of last year.
Yeah, September.
Yeah, we were super nervous. We weren't sure if like people were gonna like the product, if we were building something that had legs. So we sent the survey. We sent the survey out to a bunch of folks. We were really surprised when we saw. I think we had like 2,000 responses. I think to the survey, which was incredible. And then we saw so much pull from the community that we got super excited and decided to try and build this. And yeah, we did like 3 or 4 sprints, I think, where we would both take time off and go full-time building.
Yeah, and awesome. Like I feel like there's certain like principles and baselines that we're trying to be really focused on. So I just wanted to like do a refresh on that because like we are super focused on dark mode, even though like we're hearing people like asking for light mode already, but like we're still really focused on building the best dark mode experience possible. We want to be designer friendly because we know that like sometimes we have to collaborate with designers and that's fine. So we want to have an environment that it's good for them as well and great developer experience, right? So this is our cornerstone. So if at any point you feel like, oh, this is not as productive as it could be, like let's make it happen and let's improve it. So I wanted to call your attention to one of the things that is interesting that we are starting to grow, and that's the examples page. So for those of you who already got Dracula UI, like there's this one folder inside with examples. And it's like this ecosystem, like really inspired by what Next did. If you guys are familiar with what they did with their examples folder, just starting to grow and more. Like we heard suggestions about Bootstrap integration, Tailwind integration. So we want to grow that folder with like showing you how to do that. Like today we added one for Jekyll, right? So if by any case you were like running Jekyll and you want to know, okay, how can I do this? So now you can like go look at the code, see what are the different integration touch points, see how we are just like importing files. And like from that point on, you just have to build your project. So in this case, I just want to show you real quick. Like, okay, if you want to see how to run Dracula UI on Jekyll, you have this, so you have a hello world to start. Let's say you want to do the same with Next.js, same thing over here. And we have the instructions on how to run it, but we try to be as like standardized as possible. And every single demo is like the minimum as possible for you to get started. So I just wanted to show you before like we start showing more stuff, but for you to be familiar with that. So yeah, I would love Neto to show us a little bit about the autocomplete stuff and how to see the components inside your code editor too, because I feel like sometimes going to the documentation to check is one thing, right? Like always going to the site. But if you have a way to check inside your code editor, it's even better. So if you can show us that, it would be great, Neto.
Yeah, of course. And I think this is going to be really, really cool to, oh no, I don't have permissions to share my Zoom. Oh no, I would actually have to restart the Zoom. So Zeno, I think we're gonna have to share your screen and I can just like talk over. But yeah, one thing that I think is really cool mentioning, it was one design change, it was one design / architecture change, like decision that we made at the very beginning, because we wanted to be very focused on the developer experience. We wanted to make sure that anyone using Dracula UI just doesn't have to spend a lot of time tabbing through docs or their website, and they can just get on with it and start working right away. So we spent the first, I think, first few days trying to figure out what that would look like, until like complete accident, a friend of ours reached out about this Adobe XD like plugin that they were building. So if you're not familiar with Adobe XD, and Zeno, if you want to pull it up, I think we can show it. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Adobe XD, it has nothing. I think it has nothing to do with XD itself, the Adobe XD like Figma-like product. It's more just in this case, it's like the design system package. It says in the documentation in there, but it's basically a standard for defining your own design system. And what's really cool about that is that if you follow this standard, then you get a lot of tooling for free. So what we decided to adopt it. It was still in beta, but we wanted to give it a try. And basically, the way that it works is that you pull up this page and you select a folder from which to load your DSP. And if you're using Dracula UI, it already lives in the node modules folder. And then once you select all of this, you see that we're generating snippets for HTML, CSS, and React. And then as you see on the left-hand side in there, you see that we have one specific component for each CSS class. And if you scroll down, you see that we also have it for the React and HTML abstractions. So if you go to button or card or any of those, you see that even within this plugin, you'll have the documentation, you have an HTML preview, you have, if you scroll down, you see that there are code snippets for HTML, or if you want to switch to React, you can also get sort of like the template for all of that stuff. And the way that this manifests in like writing your own code, so if Zeno moves over to the tab on the left and types in Drac something, you see right away that you have all the stuff that you can autocomplete. So if you want to do it outside the tag, we can just use the HTML one, that I think it's like a little more magical.
Oh, you mean
you actually want to do it outside of the tag, just do Drac space,
okay.
Drac then control space. Yeah. So you see how he can pick between JavaScript, React, or HTML. And in this case, we're in HTML. Once he hits enter, you get the entire example right away. If you want to do it for React, you see how you would end up looking like. And one thing that I think is cool mentioning about you can put the CSS classes by doing Drac CSS in the class. If you do it inside of the class directive, if you do it inside the attribute.
Is this Intellisense from XD?
Yeah. So it's like
Cool.
XD is feeding, I think it's like feeding into the language server.
Yeah.
Then you get all of that stuff auto-completed for you. And then
That's
you can use the XD panel if you want to look at the documentation without leaving the editor. So if you don't want to pull up like ui.draculatheme.com, you can just look at it from there, and it will contain basically the same documentation. It doesn't have all the variations that we have on the website, but it should still give you some of the good stuff. And if you're contributing if by any reason you want to contribute and like do a bug fix or anything like that, we can show you how all of this stuff is generated. So I think it's one of the coolest things that we worked on too, because we don't want to maintain all the design system package by hand. So we actually turned our unit tests and our documentation into all of that. So then if you could pull up like the button component or the avatar, any of those. Yeah. So when you look at all of this stuff, you see how we do all of this TS doc on top of like line 31 to like 34. I don't know, you can keep it like there. You see how we have all this like controls the button style for like this variant prop. And then you have all of those documentation on the side. What's really cool is like the way that we wrote our unit test suite is that as we're compiling the code, we're also pulling all of those docs and storing them into the JSON for the design system. And then we did the same thing for our unit test. So you see here that we have a function called sizes. And then if you scroll up, then if you can scroll up to the test itself, you see that there's a snapshot of the sizes here on line 31. And then what it's doing, it's actually running all the code that generates those sizes. It's documenting them on line 34. It's giving it a title on line 32. And then using Jest and Enzyme, we're actually doing all of that like cool stuff. So if you see on line 16, we generated the docs from the TS docs. We generated the HTML from the rendered React code. And then we also generated the React code from like grabbing the source of that code that we wrote. And then all of that materializes into the Adobe XD panel and the UI.draculathing.com website that also uses, it's also consuming, yeah, if you go on the documentation page, it's also consuming the same code that we wrote. So when you look at switch, if you read this first paragraph, it's the actual comment that we wrote. And then each one of the sections and like the preview HTML and React are also just the artifacts that we generated by running our unit tests.
Yeah, that was really fascinating. And yeah, like if you guys have any other questions about that, happy to answer. Otherwise, I think we can show a little bit more of what's inside. One aspect that we talked earlier, and it's for those of you that like have design friends or you yourself consider yourself as a designer, and like the Figma package is really cool. We also spend a lot of time here thinking about how we like declare the entire typography and sizes, as long as like styles that you can reuse, right? So if you are building like we even saw like a guy doing like Instagram posts or Twitter posts using those colors to build it. So it's cool, you can reuse for anything, doesn't even have to be websites. So like you can reuse all of these colors over here, and every single thing is componentized here. So like you have, like we can get this component over here, the input, and if we start removing pieces of the component, we're gonna see that reflect all over the place. So it's just a way for you to customize the components if you want to build your own designs. And you're gonna find the same list that you see on the site, you're gonna see it over here. So that's another cool thing that we wanted to show you. And as we are changing like this, the tabs is one example. We launched the tabs without that animation when you change states. And once we implemented that, we added here too. So that's cool as well. Now, do you want to talk about roadmap for a little bit, Neto, or do you have something else in mind? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I think we were going to talk about like the Discord community before we dive into the roadmap. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Like this is one of my favorite parts so far, right? What about you, Neto? Like,
oh yeah, I have to be honest. Like I was a little skeptical at the beginning. I was afraid it was going to be too much work, but it turned out to be like one of my favorite parts of building Dracula UI. I'm spending all day on Discord. Just like I want to reply to every single thing. I want to react to every single message because it's just been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I really like the showcase channel. So like this channel is where people are building stuff, but we also have like the same thing documented on this GitHub discussion thread. So like there are several discussions going on over here, right? about Bootstrap, about their size, like roadmap, custom scroll bars. So, and even new component ideas, right? We want to build component for code, for displaying keyboard snippets. And with the showcase, like I started here by like, okay, the whole Dracula UI page was built using Dracula UI, obviously. Like we love dog fooding.
That was the first Dracula UI project. Yeah.
Yeah, like doesn't make sense to build without it. And then people started building others. So I just want to like look at the source code real quick with you guys and show some of the cool stuff that people implemented. Starting with Rick, like I was just looking at the different like classes that he used and the way he structured his site. So starting from like just the different background colors on the body, and this is a Next.js application. It's funny because the 3 applications that were created, at least that we know of, they were all created with Next. That's a funny coincidence. So then we have like a card right away. And then you see how he's mixing up, both, like for those of you who are familiar with Tailwind, he's mixing up Dracula classes with Tailwind classes. So all the layouts, which are something that we don't have right now, we're only focused on the components, he's mixing it up and using that. So we see the different boxes are being used over here. The tabs are the same tabs that you saw on the documentation. And then even like the different text stylings are over here. And here's another card and the switch in full display here. So I thought it was cool to show a little bit of that. There's also the this dashboard. So this was created by Vinicius, and this was really cool because there's a lot of colors and things going on over here. You don't necessarily need to be like creating sites like this. But again, another Next.js application, and he was more bold in terms of the decisions that he made. So I thought it was really cool to see like the different avatars and notifications, a toolbar with
hover states and all the good
hover
stuff. Yeah.
states. Yeah, exactly. And moving on to Banu. So this was a more
I love this website.
Yeah, it's so cool, right? Like he's using so this is one cool example. And once again, he's mixing it up Tailwind with Dracula UI over here. So he's using the hover states. So like there's pink text, purple, pink purple for the hover, and purple cyan for the regular state. The way he structured the colors for his articles, I feel like it looks pretty cool too. And he has other stuff that I really enjoyed, like analytics on the site. So he's using plausible analytics to show this. So yeah, I just wanted to like navigate a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, right? It's super cool, and it's really exciting when you think about it. So like, what are we building next, Neto? Like, or like, what is in your mind that we should be working on for the future?
Yeah, we've received a lot of feedback on like the things that people like, and like some questions that keep popping up. I think like a lot of folks have been asking about Tailwind, which is it's surprising because it's like, yeah, we built Dracula UI to work with Tailwind, but we weren't expecting folks to get like to think that like Dracula UI would be a competitor to Tailwind. So what's on my mind right now is trying to figure out how we're going to document the differences and how they actually complement each other, not really at like seeing Tailwind as competitors. I'm a big fan of Tailwind, so I want to make sure that it's like it's really clear that you can use both together. I'm thinking I want to dive a little bit deep into like building good examples of how you can build all of this stuff together. We've received, I'm seeing too that it's like lots of folks have been building internal tooling with Dracula UI, which is kind of expected. I was actually expecting that people would be using it more for internal tooling more so than for public websites. I was surprised though at the same time that like 2 of the 3 examples are actually public websites. So I really want to figure out what's the direction that makes most sense to go with, because I'm not sure if it was clear from like the discussions we had on Discord and the documentation, but we want to focus on patterns next. So we would love for it to be really easy for folks to just like pull a collection of like a little more higher abstractions of like components. So being able to pull like a table with search, or pulling an entire menu that's built with like Dracula UI, or like a blog or charts or like things like that. So yeah, I would love some input from folks on this call and like on the Discord community of like what makes more sense for their use cases.
Yeah, I feel
What's
like
on your
there's,
mind?
yeah, I feel like there's some, like, we need to be true to like what, like our audience, right? And people are building their own personal sites, they're building their blogs. So I feel like that's a really good place to invest time onto, like making sure we have like full templates for blogs, like things that you can just copy and paste instead of like thinking about the entire structure. How, like, one of the biggest challenges that we had, like building even like the site with like the Dracula UI, was how do we represent hierarchy in different components? Because with dark mode, you can't really leverage shadows like you do with light theme applications. So there are all these things that we had to figure out by ourselves, and we want to make sure those best practices are reflected on those templates, other than you just like coming up and pulling all these different colors together like we did in the beginning, and things were like really busy. So we want to make sure that's there. But yeah, I feel like this is a good time for us to open for people to, like, if there's any gaps that you're already like feeling
Noticing or
like,
anything? Yeah.
yeah, seeing, please share with us. Or if you have any questions, like really anything, like we want to make sure this is not only a one-way conversation. So yeah, feel free to ask anything. Have you guys built something already? Maybe this is a good. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, look, I haven't started building anything yet, but just on what you were saying, so like, you know, one of my first, so like, let's try this out, is I have an absolute terrible WordPress website that I want to migrate away from WordPress because it's the devil. And I just want, you know, I want to utilize that to sort of just make it easier and nicer to sort of design, because I'm not a front end designer by trade at all. So just on, you know, saying getting that that sort of extra higher abstraction on some of the layouts and some of the components would really be super beneficial for me, because I don't want to have to design it from the ground up. But I'm also looking at utilizing a lot of this for internal tooling that will eventually be like sort of public front end stuff. Just, you know, really leaning on that dark mode first, maybe never white mode, just because I can't stand it. But yeah, so I just wanted to say I really like the stuff, and hopefully that abstraction and templating stuff happens so that I can use it.
That's awesome. Super cool.
Yeah, we've been really inspired by everything that like folks at Tailwind have been doing. I think Tailwind UI is really game changing. The way that you can just compose all the stuff that you get with Tailwind and then just get an entire website or sections of the website. So it's definitely for us. And it's been on my mind from like the very beginning. I think yours too, right, Zena? From wanting to build something at a higher level of abstraction from the get-go. But it's kind of a chicken and egg problem too, right? Because you can't have the higher level components without having the lower level components first. So we decided to do like the first release with the lower level components, because that alone would allow folks to start like flexing some of those like dark mode designer muscles. And then we could see the patterns that would emerge from the community too. And maybe just kind of like bless them as like the canonical like patterns that we would offer with Dracula UI as well.
Exactly, and there are some already showing up, right? Like the top bar, like search bars, and like user profile navigation, that sort of thing. So yeah, we can definitely invest in that. I was just reading Jameson's comment too, that he's learning React and wants to build a to-do website. So yeah, that'll be amazing as a learning exercise for sure.
Jason, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, first of all, thanks for everything you guys are doing. I'm curious,
Yeah.
we have Dracula, we have Dracula Pro, we have Dracula UI.
Mhm.
What is the relationship between the three, and kind of who takes the driver's seat? So if
Uh-huh.
pink changes by 3 hex values,
Uh-huh.
how does that trickle or work across between the different iterations, I guess?
Nice, great question. Yeah, so it usually, I would say it's a cascading effect from Dracula Pro. So like I spend a lot of time like just learning about color theory and how to compose different contrasts with different dark colors and dark backgrounds. And I feel like we got into something really good with Dracula Pro. I feel like I'm pretty confident with the hexadecimals that we have right now. But obviously things can change, and I would see that progression. So we basically brought the colors from Dracula Pro and then we exposed on Dracula UI. So the relationship right now is it's this way, and we try to improve those two things together. Like for me, like I truly believe that like we can change how themes are perceived across all different platforms, you know. So starting from your code editor, and I feel like we went from okay 2-3 themes to 180 right now, and now like we're going to the next step, uh, like really building entire websites, entire applications, dashboards, and things like that. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love the most about Dracula UI specific, it's like an opportunity to evangelize Dracula Pro a little bit more. It's like giving folks giving other folks who are in the community more of like this sort of creative expression for them to go and create their own combinations with the colors, with the components and everything. So it's like, yeah, maybe think of like Dracula Pro as the canonical, the source of truth for the colors, and then Dracula UI being the thing that allows for some extra expression. So for example, even as authors, as we were building Dracula UI, we saw an opportunity to work with gradients. So that's not something that you would expect that a color theme would do across, like if you're looking at your terminal or your code editor, it just probably wouldn't fit. Font weight is also something that doesn't fit as well. So in our case, it was just, it was kind of a no-brainer that was like, okay, we can actually explore a lot more. We get all of this. It's like, why not try a gradient? Why not try an animated color that just keeps changing and it's like swapping between the gradients and like different font weights, and even like throw in an extra font. So we have 2 fonts, right? There's the monospace and the regular font for everything else.
Yeah, well, this definitely makes it easier to share. I themed my whole blog with original Dracula back in the day, and it was lots of comments on that of just loving the theme, and you point them to Dracula, and it's kind of like, how does that translate to a website? And that connection was hard for people to understand. So now having it as a thematic package makes it a lot easier to tell people about. So.
Yeah. And your site was one of the inspirations for this too, Jason. Like we were collecting, like we have like maybe a list of 6 or 7 sites that we knew that people were like trying to replicate the colors on their site. So we felt like, okay, it's amazing that they are using the Dracula colors, but like if we can componentize this and make like patterns that they can just copy and paste, oh man, it's going to be much easier, you know? So
I very much look forward to burning everything to the ground and starting over with this, because it is a disaster in there. Please don't show anyone.
And now you know you can use it with Tailwind as well.
Nice. No, that's awesome. Yeah, okay, folks. Like if there's no other questions, I also don't want to take your time as much. I know we've been here for 30 minutes. I'm super happy to stay longer too. But yeah, just want to respect your time too. So yeah, let me know any other questions, comments.
I just admitted Benu into the room. Benu, we showed your website. I'm sorry you missed it. We were showcasing your work, taking credit from your work.
Yeah, and we are also aware like there are plenty of folks here that maybe don't speak English, so it's totally fine that you're not speaking. We totally understand that. Okay, yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We're gonna share the recording in case you missed one piece or another and you want to watch it later. But yeah, thanks so much. We are like super grateful to be building this together with you. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's keep.
And Ben, if you want to show demos and like, yeah, we're happy to make this a community event. Super happy if like anyone wants to speak. We're definitely going to host some more of these, and we're going to give everyone like plenty of heads up, so you would know way ahead of time, so you can join. We'll try and like be as inclusive as possible of time zones. I think this time zone actually worked out pretty well. Seems to have worked well for South of North America, as well as yeah, Australia and Pacific time zone.
Sweet. Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot, and
Awesome.
yeah, let's keep building. Bye.
Thanks a lot. See you on
guys. Bye.
Discord.
See ya.